It's funny because a few days ago I saw this video. It was a little boy. Someone sent it to me in Messenger on Facebook, but it was a little boy, probably, I don't know, 7, 8 years old. And he was praising God and he was preaching up a storm, and he began to pray and to begin to prophesy and lay hands on his little sisters and brothers. This little boy was on fire. And it's quickened in my spirit as the Holy Spirit does when I'm viewing things. Oftentimes he will give me an individual interpretation, if you will. But what dropped in my spirit so profoundly was the word travail. Travail. We've been having some challenges. We've been dealing with a pandemic, of course, no that news to anyone. We're in a wave now. I guess they call it the second wave, where we are seeing major impact across the nation, indeed across the globe. People are being infiltrated with this horrible virus in their bodies. But the word that God kept bringing in my spirit was travail, travail, travail. And I want to drop that in your spirit today on a couple of different levels. First of all, I believe it applies to us because, like that little boy wouldn't give up, he just kept going. I mean, this was probably one of the longest videos I've ever sat and watched on Facebook. I'll be honest, after a few minutes, I'm usually out of there. But he just captivated me with the Spirit of God that was flowing in him. We have to travail through all of our challenges right now. I hear people growing weary. I can understand it's difficult, it's frustrating when you have loved ones who are contending with this sickness, people who are battling, and people who are going through challenges emotionally, mentally, physically. Of course, as those who have physically encountered this virus know, it can take your very breath away. But I'm saying even in the natural realm, without the sickness per se, but the mental wear and tear, the fatigue of dealing with this thing, we got to travail, saints. We can't give in. We've come too far. I am amazed at how much God has brought us through over 2020. 2020, good gracious abody, has been a year, but we have persevered and we have to travail. We have to press on. We can't give in. This is too late in the game. You've come too far to end now. You can't quit. You've come too far. You've seen the hand of God. You've seen his ability to keep you. You got to travail. The other piece, though, that really is most pressing for me in this context is to travail in prayer. Some of the reason that we're not seeing the breakthrough that we want to see, I believe, I take it personal, when my prayer doesn't go through, so to speak, and I don't see the answer, I start going back to God. Well, Lord, I'm praying according to your word. What is it that is missing here? And I'm looking at the book of Colossians. I'm going to read from the 4th chapter of Colossians. And it says, let's see where I want to pick up. In verse 12, Epaphras, who is one of you, a bondservant of Christ, greets you always, laboring fervently for you in prayers, that you may stand perfect and complete in all the will of God. For I bear him witness that he has a great zeal for you, and those who are in Laodicea, and those in Hierapolis, laboring fervently for you in prayer. There's got to be a place in our time of crying out to God where we labor fervently. It can be a modest, if you will, minor, all the time, quick, got my prayer in, let's move on. Sometimes we've got to travail. We've got to labor in prayer. We got to get between the porch and the altar, as the prophet told us. We got to cry out, turn our face to the wall, and we got to labor. We got to be fervent, and we got to be persistent in our time of prayer. And I'm concerned because on many levels, I find myself wondering if we are doing that on a consistent basis. Are we laboring in prayer? Are we travailing in prayer? Are we crying out? Do we in our, as Epaphras is crying out, or was crying out for those who he was in relationship. He said, Paul said, he's one of you. The people that you're in relationship with, God has called you as their intercessor. You are one of them. We are one of them. And we are called to pray without ceasing. We're called to call on the name of the Lord our God. And we're called to do it fervently. It's not a thing where it's a boom, we did it and we're done. Sometimes you got to get down and if you're really praying good, you start snotting a little bit and crying and all of that. Not that that has to happen, but that's my experience. Oftentimes when you are, that's right, relentless in prayer, we press into a place where we move beyond just the surface level and we go into the deeper realm of our spirit with God. That's the place in which you get the revelation from God. That's the place in which you get the breakthrough from God. And you see God begin to move. It doesn't always happen instantaneously. I don't mean that, boom, the guy got up and walked at that second. Sometimes I've seen that, but sometimes the next day they got it up and walked. But my point is, sometimes we have to labor. And I also have to challenge you, if you are a regular on the prayer line and you hear me crying out to God, I'm challenging you to meet me in the air. I'm challenging you to come in and labor with me in prayer. Prayer is not a spectator sport. I would challenge each of us who are on the Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, wherever you view it from, Instagram, that you come in not just to view or support, but to get in the game and labor with us in prayer. Pick up that phone, join the prayer line. Many get on here and on the Facebook and they're on the prayer line warring in the spirit. It is not enough to say, I watch a prayer. I gotta be a prayer warrior of my own. Now I know some people cry out, like my sister Beverly cries out right wherever she is, in her office or home or wherever. But I'm challenging you, join our cause, get in agreement, pick up that phone, call in the prayer line, and let your voice be heard with ours. This is not a time to be on the sidelines. You know, when you are a warrior, you want to be in the battle. You don't want to just sit there and watch. I don't know about you, but I'm a football fan. Rare is the day when somebody gets pulled out of the game and they say, oh, that's great, I just want to sit here and watch. No, they're chomping at the bit. They're in the coach's face. Coach, put me back in. Coach, put me back in. Why? Because they want to be in the midst of the battle. They want all of their gifts and all of their strength and all of their talents to be lent to that effort to make sure that we are victorious in the war, in the battle, in the game. I'm saying this ain't a game. This is people's lives. I take it personal. If I pray for something or someone and I don't see the victory, I'm not saying I am perfect or that every single prayer is going to come out the way that I want, because I'm not unrealistic. Sometimes the answer doesn't come the way that I want, but I don't want it to be said when I get to heaven that the reason that prayer didn't go through is because you didn't travail. It's because you didn't show persistence, because you weren't relentless, as we've said, because you didn't stay between the porch and the altar, because you didn't turn your face completely to the wall. You tried to give me a drive-by prayer. You tried to give me a McDonald's version, quick and easy, in and out, boom. Or worse yet, you tried to ride somebody else's prayer. My. I'm challenging you today to get in God's face and to travail in prayer. You got people whose lives are depending on your prayers. It's not just, oh, they want to feel a little better. They want to live. There are people who are trying to live. They're standing on the precipice of death's door, and our prayers can make the difference oftentimes between whether they travel over the veil or they come back on this side. Now, if they're in Christ, they're in a win-win situation. They can't die. They either live in the presence of God completely or they live on this side. But they might not be ready to make that transition to the next phase of their eternity. They may still have some loved ones they want to spend time with here. I'm not saying that it's all on us, but I'm saying it's a lot on us. We have been given a privilege and a power to seek the face of the Lord our God. And he said that the fervent and effectual prayer of the righteous avails much. When we are praying, we're invoking God's presence. We are inviting him into our circumstances, and God answers the prayers of the righteous. His word tells us his ear is attentive to our prayers. How much better can it get than the God who created heaven and earth is saying, I'm listening. Are you speaking? Heaven forbid you get to heaven and he said, I was listening, but you never said anything. You have not because you've asked not. I'm challenging you today. Let's take this thing to the next level. Let's bump it up a notch. Let's travail before the Lord our God in prayer, not just on the prayer line, but even after and before the prayer line. There are people who are dying. We want to be able to say, God, I did everything I could to invoke your presence in the midst of this darkness. And God, I can rest easy and have a clear conscience before you that whatever came and whatever was, it wasn't because I didn't pray. So I challenge you today. The big bird word for today is travail. Seek his face, pray without ceasing, and see what the Lord our God will do. If he would answer Elijah's prayer and stop the rain for 3 years, surely he can stop a pandemic. Surely he can raise somebody up from their sick bed. Surely he can turn our situations around. So let's do just that, saints of the Most High. Let's go before the Lord our God today and let's cry out to him. Let's travail.